Okay, I've got 6:30. Julie, can you call the roll, please?
Kara Caston. Here. Ken Dawson.
Here.
Jeff Spinoza.
Here.
Sherelle Fuller. Here. Jenny Hagstrom.
Here.
Carrie Pavasich.
Here.
Don Renner.
Here.
And Gianna Hunchy. Here. Thank you.
We have a quorum. Can we stand for Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No visitors? Okay. Then we'll move on to item 4 of the agenda. Turn this over to Dr. Thiele.
My clicker's not working here. All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm going to have to just manually.
Oh, you want me to do it? You all right?
So we've got to find out how Italy was. How was Italy?
I'll talk to you afterwards.
You didn't bring us any
I'll
cannolis.
ask you to hit the space
All
bar.
right. You didn't bring us any cannolis.
Hey, there we go. What were we talking about earlier about tech? All right. Actually, it's kind of important to get to these because Travis has a couple of slides for you. All right. T99 update. I'll turn it over to Travis to share what's going on over there.
So it's exciting to see the progress that's being made. We're T-minus 2 weeks until opening school day, right? So there's a lot that has been done, but we have a good list of things that are going to get done. We've been progress monitoring this throughout the whole time. We've been meeting every other week with White. We have a meeting tomorrow morning to go over the punch list, if you will, of things that need to get done. We have cleaning set up, ready to go. We have the furniture installation ready to go. One of the things, when you look at some of the pictures, so you can see the addition there is to the right. This is a not finished bathroom, right? But we're getting there, right? So there's some awesome tile work. And again, this is one of the 2 classrooms down in the bottom right-hand corner that are being added. Again, a lot of work. It's one of those finishing, right? So if you've ever been part of construction, the big pieces go really quick, and then kind of the end kind of seems like it's going slow, but there's a lot of things that are happening. We have a lot of different construction on site, getting different pieces. You can see the front is wrapped where we had on the old side where they're going to be wrapping that around. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is a good visual of the new siding that will be in place, right? So, and the new windows, so this is the new addition. And you can see it there. One thing you'll notice is there's a lot of stone there, but there's not the actual driveway that is not in place yet. We will be ready for students to arrive. We're probably gonna have to be flexible where our staff are parking. So the whole parking lot, we don't believe is gonna be done by the time that first day we start. But we will be flexible in getting that done. Will be good for drop off, pick up, those types of things. Just a lot of moving pieces, and obviously with our different type of parking that is going to be in place with the permeable pavers, right? There's some additional work that is to be put in place. These 2 classrooms actually are in the old part of the building. But you can see there's new flooring that was put in place. They had to tear up the flooring to do some plumbing work and different things, so those rooms got a fresh upgrade. So all the painting has been done. The drop ceilings are getting put in. All of the tiles, and the carpeting, all of the carpeting is done. So we're going to be on. We're going to be good, but we're going to give you a further update. We're on budget. We're going to give you a more detailed update at our meeting in 2 weeks. Okay, but everything is looking good. But it's one of those things of like, okay, we're reminding them we got teachers coming right on the 17th because the 16th will be all together. So, but we'll be ready, and we're going to be flexible, and we're going to.
So are they working 24 hours?
Not 24 hours, but they're working a lot. So, yeah.
And a reminder for staff parking, the Omega restaurant across the street has graciously for years allowed us to park in their lot, so go grab some pancakes over there to thank them for all of their help over the years, but we'll still leverage their space here to start the year.
And we do have, I forgot to mention, we have our August 10th is, so Thursday, the ROE walkthrough for occupancy, so we're on schedule for that. That's a big hurdle to make sure we get completed, but we are on schedule for that.
Well, it looks beautiful.
Yeah,
It looks beautiful.
it's really neat. You'll love the final pictures once we get those in place, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be great.
So we'll have those for you at our meeting on the 21st. And then we'll have a ribbon cutting. We'll invite everybody to, that'll be in October 23rd.
Okay.
So we'll make sure that's on your calendar in advance of that. All right. Any other questions for Travis or I on T99?
Great work.
Thank
You guys are rocking.
I'll tell you what, when you look at it's the coordination of external and internal, right? There's a lot of things that need to happen for that, and our staff have done a great job of making sure that, hey, we have this window to get things done, get it done to make sure that we're not holding things up, and so kudos to our staff for making sure that we're good to go.
What has been the biggest challenge you've had so far?
I don't know that there's been one. It's just when you look at the process, our vendors have been are good. Our subcontractors, everything has worked well. We haven't been, where are you, right? None of that has occurred. White's done a great job of keeping us updated. They send a weekly report of pictures with a 360 diagram that you can click in and look around the room and different aspects of that. I can't identify I go, man, we pulled our hair out, over this. It's been really good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Travis.
You're welcome.
All right, the next one comes back from our last board meeting. At the last board meeting, we kind of went slide by slide, section by section over the strategic roadmap for the next school year. We're going old school tonight, so I've given you a packet at each of your tables that looks like this, that starts with the mission, vision, and core values on it. And what Julie and I have done is work to give you a more clear document. This is available in board docs too for anybody revisiting the board meeting. But the information that's been provided to the board in a variety of different formats, we tried to coalesce into one here for you and for the public to see what the actual tasks are that we're working on, both like the overarching idea. So if we look on page 2, under an equitable and supportive environment, that's the strategic direction. The expectation, ensure safe and sustainable opportunities for all students and families, including access to district resources. Then in that whole section on page 2, and it continues on the top of page 3, are all of the specific things we're doing to meet that strategic direction and expectation. Some of the measurable things, the things we're monitoring, that we're tracking, that we'll be reporting out to the board on once a month throughout the entire school year as to how we're making progress on these things. What we've provided you along with that is also who from the administrative team, either the individual or individuals that are most directly responsible for those things. So as the year goes on, those are the people you'll hear from. So for the first one, strategically utilize, leverage, and develop district resources to provide students with the opportunity to achieve their full academic potential and demonstrate growth and progress through the continual evaluation of instructional practice and academic metrics, including state accountability measures. So you can see underneath there what we'll do around that. And then ultimately, Gina's the one that's responsible on the team for reporting out on that and keeping the board apprised of what's going on. So the board could expect to receive written updates throughout the year, and then obviously you know that there's key points throughout the year where Gina will come and present, like when the new school report card comes out, or grants, or those kinds of things throughout the course of the year. So with that in mind, I'm not going to read them all to you like that. I know you've seen them multiple times before tonight. It's just kind of a new format for this evening. There's no new information in here. I made sure that throughout here, a couple of things that were commented on last time was where's the board's pieces in here. And there's a couple of spots where I've added that this is an area where the board is working to better communicate or be transparent with the community. Otherwise, I thought we could just take it page by page and see if there was anything on here that a board member wanted to call out or ask a question about. Then after that, this evening, there will be an opportunity where I ask the board to approve this, and then this will be provided to the staff next week when they all return. And we'll share it with chairs, and administration's been involved in developing it, but department chairs will share it with them on Friday. So, all right, so on page 2, which is the first one of all of the directions and expectations. Anything any board member would like to pull out or discuss or have questions about? And it's very possible that we don't, because we've been over this many times before tonight.
And is this, just a question on your process, so do you bring this then when the teachers meet, or have the details underneath this been fleshed out? Sorry for my lack of.
Yes, it's all,
It's
this is
already
kind of the
fleshed out?
final review.
Okay. But what's underneath this is already fleshed out as well? Okay.
Yep, yep. And we'll bring it to, as I said, it's been shared with, I think the draft of it was shared with chairs already. It's been shared with both the bargaining units, leadership before this. And then the final version will start rolling out this week then, assuming the board approves it
I
tonight.
do want to ask my question, so just given how, the hybrid block schedule has been such a source
Mm-hmm.
of interest, is there anything kind of new there? I'm looking at this one at the bottom of page 2 about evaluation, like, is there anything just specific to that, new evaluation methods, or anything you're doing differently this year in year 2?
So
One.
our plan was not to, from the administrative side. We went through it in the fall based on how the feedback we received 10 weeks in. We changed the format of gathering that feedback for the spring, and we received really good feedback from teachers and from the public that was a better way both to submit the information, and that we did a nice job of reflecting those concerns. Ryan did a good job of reflecting those current concerns that time around. So we expected going into this year that we would replicate that in the fall, because that would give us a very similar look from spring to fall, at least in format, so we could look more longitudinally to see if some of these data points are changing from one way to another. We felt like at that point, if the board felt like they wanted something different, they wanted an outside voice, if they were hearing that we weren't accurately reflecting that or whatever, that would be the point to evaluate if we should do something different. We really wanted to be able to provide, like, in the spring, people said this, and now in the fall, they're saying this, right? So we could give that from point A to point B reflection that we really couldn't do from the fall until the spring last year, because we were really trying to figure out how that all worked. And I think we have a good format now to be able to provide that perspective to the board and to the public. If we change everything at this point, we kind of go back and restart, and then we won't be able to provide like point A versus point B until the spring, right? I'd rather get that perspective to the board first, and then if the board, public, teacher, staff, whatever, feel like, we need more, we need an outside perspective, that would be the time, I think, to have that conversation. However, I'm open to feedback from the board. If you'd like that from jump, we could do that as well. Good?
Go for it.
Thank you, Cara. All right, anything else on page 2? Moving to page 3, the top is related to the last, or no, we move on to 2 new strategic expectations. Or actually 3. Is there anything in here that anybody would like to pull out?
Question.
Yes,
Oh,
Gianna,
sorry.
go ahead.
What's the new attendance software?
It's a product called 5-Star, correct? Hey, I got it right. And that will be showing up as the year starts for better tracking student attendance.
Okay.
So, but that's the name of it. But I don't know, Courtney, Arwen, anything else beyond that you'd like to share about it, or something you're excited about with the tool at all? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I think we're, first of all, it will help us better track, particularly during those resource times, who's in the building and who has the ability to leave. I think the second piece is that it has a lot of opportunity for us to look into some things as the year progresses, things like digital hall passes. And it has an ability to have an online ID, and there's an app that's connected to it. So there's a lot of really cool features. We're kind of just rolling it out, mostly basic as we start the school year, but then hoping to test it with some groups of students to expand its capabilities throughout the school year too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll just add to it, it adds a nice layer of student accountability. We know that we were really excited about the schedule, that there were opportunities for increased autonomy. And so this is just a way to allow students to continue to have that autonomy with an extra layer of accountability as well. So for example, fourth period will be the first period of the day on Thursdays. And we know juniors and seniors with good standing with parent permission are allowed to not come fourth period and kind of have late arrival. But this will allow us to make sure that everyone who is not in that category, who is in resource and in the building and expected to be in the building to utilize the resources in the building, this will help us to make sure that they're in the building because they're typically in the commons versus in like a structured study hall room. So it's a really nice way to add an extra accountability lens to the student autonomy that we have with the new schedule.
Okay, good.
Where do we stand on the second one, further develop and communicate common expectations for staff?
Yeah, that will be part of the opening day presentation, and
Oh,
then Jill has worked on some nice, well-presented expectations around communication protocols and consistency across the district. That's a handbook that goes along communication. But as we open on opening day, we're going to share some strategies we'd like for everybody to participate in, like taking things to the most direct person involved in the situation. When you're going to meet with somebody, setting some expectations of giving them a heads up about what that topic is going to be about and what you're hoping to get out of that meeting with them. Like, Kara, I'm coming to meet with you about a concern I have. I just want you to listen to me so that when I go in, Kara knows she's not there trying to solve my problem. She's just there to be a listener. Or, Ken, I'm coming to meet with you to advocate for this. I would like to get you on board to help me advocate for this to happen. Or things around, especially around behaviors, that we're really specific about frequency and severity. Like, whenever we're talking about a concern around a behavior, that we bring with that, like, this isn't happening that often, but when it does, it's really serious. Or, like, this really isn't that serious of a behavior, but it just keeps happening so much, it's just like 1,000 paper cuts, right? So that we get in the habit as team members of using similar vocabulary to express ourselves so that it's easier for the person to receive that, to know what they should be doing with what we're bringing in. So that will be part of the opening day presentation to staff.
Great.
Can I ask under the second
Mhm.
category?
Sure.
About the ones about increased engagement with the community? Do you or either of the principals have specific, are there new things you're going to try to do under the first one, under build community, foster belonging? Any specific new things about engaging the community?
Yes, we've been working on a larger communication plan with both the principals and with Jill. One of the things we're going to be bringing back is our superintendent's advisory community meeting that went by the wayside during COVID, so that's going to come back this year. Both principals have parent advisory groups that they're going to continue developing into this year. We're going to do the open house at T99. We're going to do an open house at both schools because of the 100-year anniversary. And then we're looking for opportunities, as I've explained to the board, where I will have those meetings, or other administrators will be having those meetings, to offer the opportunity for board members to come, a small number of board members, right? We can't have more than 2 in any one spot, but to work with Don to coordinate if board members would like to come in and be available, or to at least be in the room where those things are going on. And then we'll continue all of the wide variety of monthly communications we do, both from the school level and the district level, as well as the end of the year community report that goes out.
Just curious, have you had the sign up yet for the SAT prep?
No, that'll all start as we get into the school year.
Okay.
So there'll be kind of a rolling window where they'll ask for students to come sign up for like the first batch of them. And then if it fills up, we'll put those students on the wait list for the next group that comes around. But there'll be kind of a rolling sign-up window as the school year goes on. And that'll happen through the College and Career Center, right? Isn't that the plan? Any others on page 3? All right, moving on to page 4. Page 4 wraps up the first strategic direction and moves into the next one, growth of student ownership and agency.
Is the second one under the middle of the page, help students understand how to leverage their unstructured time?
Mhm.
Is that a new one, or is that just sort of building on last year?
It's
or-
building on
It's
last
building
year.
on last year.
Mhm. And that'll add this year the opportunity for, remember last year we had students had the opportunity to be brought in if a teacher invited them. This year we'll be offering more, as the year goes on, more and more opportunities for go the other direction, where students will be able to schedule their time proactively with staff or other opportunities at school.
This section has a lot of opportunity for growth and how we utilize the hybrid block schedule.
Absolutely.
Excited to see what you guys how you can leverage that time this year.
Yeah, you'll see office hours. There's a big work around how we make that easier for students and families to know when teachers' office hours are. So, this is the kind of the natural growth in year 2 of the schedule. And a lot of this came from the feedback we received in the survey in the spring. All right, moving on to page 5. You'll start to see a lot of student support things here. You'll start to see Scott's name show up quite a bit in here, and the principals. You'll see the work that we've talked in prior meetings about better measuring students' engagement in extracurricular activities and making sure we're reaching out to students that aren't engaged here at school to understand, maybe they are engaged just in something outside of school, or maybe they're not anywhere, and we need to help figure out how to connect them to something.
Yeah.
Anything on page 5? Moving on to page 6, we move into the next strategic direction that's focused on post-secondary planning. You'll see a lot of crossover here as well with access and resource. You'll see a focus on English learners and making sure that all of our students are engaged in post-secondary planning. Is there anything here on page 6 you'd like to pull out or have questions about?
Like a comment, and maybe this is something hard to, I was recently on a college tour.
Yeah.
And I was touring the, the sort of, career center, and they talked about how they had outfits for all the students to either borrow or take. And I was thinking here, even post-secondary, but also like, kids are involved in the speech team and have to wear jackets or, you know, work pants. Like, I just was curious, is that something we have? Do we have clothes that people donate that students can use? They don't have to go out and buy things for that?
We
Or-
have a couple of different venues, so yes, we've provided
We do
them
that.
before, if needed, or help students purchase them. We also have, through our partnership with the Education Foundation, our Angel Fund, which allows the principals to request funding for those kinds of things, should a student need to take
I
advantage
just
of
thought it
it.
was a neat idea, rather than having to ask, like, I can't afford it
Oh,
to buy a
yeah.
jacket.
To add on to that, I'm in Model UN and I get to help run it this year, and a lot of kids, especially women, don't really know how to dress in a professional setting. And then on top of that, I'll be like, oh, I'll wear this or I'll wear this, and they don't have it. So I think that's a really good idea to try and like provide.
Yeah, make it a
Yep.
little easier so people don't have to, because I had a person where a neighbor borrowed some clothes of mine. I was like, you know, she didn't want to have to go out and spend money to do it, so I just thought, well,
I had to go out and
easy.
buy stuff from Model UN.
Yeah, and I think a lot of parents.
Bought a lot of stuff.
could donate clothes so that people can just go in and sort of pick and don't have to sort of admit, I don't know what to wear, or I can't afford a jacket or whatever is required, so. Just a thought, I wanted to ask if it was something we already did.
It just depends on the individual student's situation.
Needs,
You know, there are times where we have people that provide gift cards, or we have, we find a lot of things for when students need it.
Okay.
Whether it be for that, or just they're not prepared for the winter weather, or, you know, or. Most of the time, those things come through the student's counselor, or a sponsor, or a trusted adult.
So
And
you
so-
feel like students are good about speaking up, and that's not
I
a
think they
barrier to
always can
participation?
speak up more,
Okay.
you know, and we're always on the lookout for it, so I can't tell you, like, we get every kid every time. But I think that we're pretty proactive in it here, more than I've seen in a lot of districts, and we have a lot of people that provide us resources when we ask for it.
It's basically an ask.
Yeah, if we know, we find those resources for students that need them. Yeah.
Could you touch briefly on building systematic programming for families of color and lower income?
Yeah.
So specifically for post-secondary planning?
This is an area where Ryan did a lot of work last year, especially involving with our HBCUs and getting out on some of those tours, out to those. A lot of this is through our college and career centers, but it's an area where Ryan really focused on a lot last year with students, providing different opportunities to get engaged and
So
connected.
is the goal this year to
Just
improve
continue
on that or
building on that,
continue
yeah,
on
yeah,
that?
yeah. And that's also through Courtney and Arwen and their teams, and then BPAC, which is our bilingual parent advisory group, so.
Great.
All right, moving on to page 7. This wraps up, on this page, our post-secondary is the first two, and then we move into our final area, which is recruitment, retention, support of our high-quality teachers and staff. Anything on page 7 anybody would like to pull out or discuss? All right, moving on to page 8. This continues the work with our staff. You'll see us start to transition to a lot of work that Rob is doing over the course of the year, or leading over the course of the year.
For the professional development, is there more happening this year, given it's year 2 of the hybrid? Like, wasn't that a little bit challenging last year? Is the professional development focus a little more ramped up, or?
Yeah, a little bit. So we have what we call personalized professional learning. So it's the time for the teachers to choose the thing that they're curious about, to dig deeper into. Because of the launch of the schedule last year, we used first semester really circling around how logistically the schedule is going to work. And then we launched personalized professional learning in second semester. And overall, the staff said, we love it. We wish we had more time for it. So this year, now that we're into the schedule, it's going to be spread throughout the entire school year.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else on page 8?
On the bringing back data to the board, under the first point of ensure that staff roles and responsibilities adapt to the diverse needs of students. Are you planning on doing that like semi-annually? What's your thought process there?
Sure. We have our 2 key points that we always do, which is the fall and the spring. One around the release of the school report card, and as we head into testing season, we discuss that. But we've set aside with the senior cabinet quarterly half-day meetings where we are going to look at key data and metrics and our progress on those things. Some of those are listed inside of here, like 9th grade on track, attendance, discipline, those kinds of things. At the end of each of those quarterly meetings that we have, we'll determine, is there something or what is there that we should be bringing back to the board at that point. So it's like October, January, April, and then June.
When do we receive our report card from last year's performance?
End of October.
End of October?
So it's usually the November board meetings when we do the presentation. So that's why we have a data retreat planned in October, because we'll start to get some like preliminary information at that point, and then we can be prepared when the school report card's released.
The school report card is not a surprise, though. I mean, you have most of the data.
We've
that's-
uploaded most of the data,
So we have some of the data already, and for example, started to manipulate some of that data. But the actual data that will appear on the report card is available to us before it goes public. So there's actual dashboards that you can do about a month before.
But then we're embargoed in the ability to discuss it publicly until it's released.
When do we start to see SAT scores?
We already have SAT scores. It's about almost 3 weeks ago, I believe, that they were
Okay.
released. So we have preliminary ideas about what those scores mean, but the state has different rules and parameters around that. For example, how long the student has been our student, so the scores can vary just a little bit in terms of the averages.
Okay. And then attendance, another, it's a big part of this report card. Would assume that we already have that data from last year within our systems? Okay,
Yeah, we upload that data to the state.
okay.
So if parents and community members are looking to see what the results are, October, November is the time frame.
Right, it's
That
usually a
would be-
few days, a few days before Halloween, typically, depending on the weekdays and
So it'd
whatnot.
be a
That's how
trick
I
or a
was-
treat.
So with the test scores, though, this will be the class of 2023, right? Which was
It'll be-
some.
It'll be last
It'll be the
year's
juniors.
Oh, okay.
Sure,
So they
seniors.
did have the PSAT, and so I mean, we have a better sense of those kids moving through our.
Right, we'll be able
curriculum.
to start,
suite.
yeah, we'll start, be able to start bringing back this year some of the longitudinal look at, did they grow with us, by how much, those kinds of things. Which,
For ninth grade on track,
Mhm.
do you get any information on incoming students so that you have a sense of maybe people that you want to pay a little closer attention to or that are more vulnerable to not being on track, or is it just something that's measured once they start at?
Some of that's through the course placement as we place students. You know, we look at those test scores and how students are doing to some extent. At the other end of it, you don't want to just assume because a student didn't have a great middle school experience that they're going to start out terrible with us. So that's a piece of data that we start monitoring come about week 2. We're looking at which students are coming in that are failing courses or receiving D's or F's, earning D's or F's in courses, especially multiple courses. We're drilling in on that from the start. And that's something that I look at and Gina looks at, and we meet and discuss weekly, and I know they do with their leadership teams in both buildings as well. That first semester of the 9th grade year is we're keeping very close attention to student progress so that if a student is stumbling, we're able to get them caught back up and get them supports as quickly as possible. We're not waiting until grades are in, you know, at the end of semester 1.
Yeah.
And last year we did a really, I'm looking forward to seeing hopefully progress in that area because we were really intentional last year on 9th grade on track.
Good.
All right, anything else on 8? Last page, 9. Anything in these last 2 items that you'd like to discuss?
Are we good? Do we have a pretty good pool of substitute teachers? Are we?
How are we doing,
short?
Rob?
We do. We monitor it. I ask the team about every other day, how are we doing? Are there more people? So the challenge every year going into a school year is that we have a long list of subs who have expressed interest of subbing in our district. That doesn't necessarily mean that when game time comes on that day that they choose us over another district. So we have a very healthy list of substitutes. They've been more active than just sort of our passive subs in terms of making sure that they have all of their documents in line. So it appears to me right now that most of the subs on our list are far more eager to sub in District 99 than they are in others because they sign up in other school districts. So the list is a little bit bigger than last year, but I think we're going to have more of them on a daily basis choosing us over another district.
So when they sign up in other school districts, do they have to go through a process at every?
They do. Every school district has their own application and background checking. You know, we can't share that information across districts, so yeah, they apply to each district.
Shame.
So once a sub commits to one district, can they also work in another district or only in the one district?
No, they commit to as many districts as they want, and most of them have this app on their phone that's connected to our absence monitoring software that the other districts have too. So they'll see if it's a pre-planned absence, it'll get loaded in, and it's basically a first come, first claim system. So they can claim it and say, I'd like to do that job for that. So for us, it's, which we did, making sure that we're paying competitively, so that way that's not a hindrance to them choosing our jobs over other districts. And then the other part too is to make sure that we are very timely in posting the jobs that we have for subbing instead of last minute, because we want the subs to know a week from now I've got a gig at District 99, so I'm not going to go to another district. Yeah.
Are the majority of absences things that can be planned in advance, or are some?
Not as much as before. So most of our pre-planned absences before was going to conferences, which required a sub. But because we didn't have subs, we limited the number of conferences. So we didn't have a lot of those. But there are some. So if it's, you know, a doctor's appointment or a staff knows in advance, we try our best to ask them as soon as you know, fill it out, because this has ripple effects of whether we're going to be able to adequately staff your room.
Well, we did multiple hiring fairs this summer to try to build out that pool a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they've been effective. We had good traction on both those days.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the rate of pay, so I take it that there isn't like a standard sub rate of pay, say, for high schools in DePage County, no?
No, there's no standard rate of pay. In fact, we're all competing against each other. So we made a pretty big jump to bring us back up to market for our rate of pay. So we did that to get us back into competitive pay. And now the second part of our work is that we create a more welcoming environment for them. So that way, if another district outbids us and has their rate of pay just a little bit more, our hope is that the people who came here to work with us will choose staying here over a slightly bigger increase in another district. Yeah.
So what have we done to create a welcoming environment for this school?
Yeah, so we're working on that. One thing that we want to do is bring them into Institute Day. So we have never really included them on Institute Day. So we've got some planning right now, bringing them in, have them here with the keynote talk, with Hank's address to the staff, so they can feel more part of the community. T-shirts, each building gives
Yeah.
out T-shirts every year.
They do.
So we thought what we're going to do this year is provide them with T-shirts, so that way they feel more branded of District 99.
Especially if they're working on a Friday, right?
Right.
Especially if they're working on a Friday, right? The other thing that we're working on is Jeree and Tammy are working with food service to create a daily voucher that they can use at food service.
I was gonna say free coffee, and then I
Yeah.
thought that sounded good.
No, that's something
That's
we're working on.
kind of what we're thinking, yeah.
Yeah, we're working through the logistics of how do we do that without them handling cash, so that way they feel like, okay, oh, and part of Institute Day is hearing that, but then some building tours and some training on classroom management and stuff like that. So my hypothesis is we get them up to a competitive rate of pay, and then they go and tell all their friends, look, they invest in you, you get T-shirts, you get a coffee every day, like, you need to come here and work in District 99.
Yeah.
Great, great.
So is that a paid day for them if they come to the
It will be,
institute?
yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Just one final thought, and it's around this, but not necessarily totally connected. With the shortage of teachers, and it sounds like that's going on across perhaps the United States,
Mhm.
do we have a plan in place? So you have the substitute talking about inviting them in that really likes being in the district, they're getting lots of days, they're committed. Do we have a process for some of those, or are they aware of if they, or could they even become teachers?
Yeah, it's a little tricky. The licenses work differently. To be a substitute, it's just a general bachelor's degree. But to be a teacher, you have to go through a teacher prep program.
Yep, I'm familiar with that, but
Yeah.
even just having that conversation with them, that, you know, this is the process, because maybe they don't know as a substitute, because they were just substituting.
Yeah.
Become a, you know, we like them, they like us.
Yep.
We've given them the T-shirt, you know.
So they're part of the team.
They are, yeah.
Here's a process,
Mhm.
because I'm just thinking about if this shortage increases, and I'm feeling like it will,
Yeah.
how are we going to Band-Aid for that, you know?
Yeah, so I hear your question. We have more success converting a paraprofessional or a teacher aide into a teacher.
Okay.
Because those individuals are usually early or mid-career. Our subs are usually retired, or they have a job that gives them some flexibility during the day. I'm not aware of any of them who have aspirations to become a full-time teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But we do work through, we have agreements with our support staff association, so when we find a paraprofessional who has aspirations to be a teacher, that we can support them to getting the right credentials so they can become a teacher.
Okay.
We even have pathways for them to be able to student teach with us,
Oh, okay.
instead of having to resign from their job. If certain conditions are met and everything works out, We've had a couple of teachers that have been able to student teach with us rather than having to resign and go student teach somewhere else.
I just have one quick question along the same kind of line, and it's probably not in here, but how are we doing on bus drivers?
Actually, I don't know. Because they're not our staff, that is
know.
technically Jeree and Tammy who coordinate closely with the bus depot. I can check with them.
Well, I see signs all over the place.
Yeah.
That they're constantly needing bus drivers, and I know.
I do know from conversations with Jeree that the depot that we use with First Student, and we share with other districts, has not been hurt as badly as other depots
Some.
or other school districts with drivers.
I just worry about that because our students need to get to school, so without them, we're.
Yeah.
We'll probably be doing that check-in here in the next week.
Yes, I was thinking with
Yeah.
school startup, see
Yeah,
how bad
yeah,
it is or not.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
bring
no,
up
it's a
something.
fair question.
Related,
Yeah.
not to side rail, but on the busing, so several people have asked me, because it's summertime, freshmen coming in, about the busing 0 hour. And I know, like, I speak about from the music perspective, like, band students, orchestra students, particularly in Woodridge, who live further away, right? I know there is that a financial issue? We can't afford more buses for the district, or is that there's not enough kids? Like, there are lots of 0 hour classes, right?
There's
Is
not.
there, or is there not? Is there not a huge need for 0 hour busing?
There's not a huge
Not a huge
number
need.
of 0 hour classes, but most of our bus routes are here by 7:40-ish, 7:45. So most students can make it to 0 period. When we had 0 period that started at before 7 a.m., in fact, then it was a huge issue.
So starting this year with, or like us last year?
Last
It was
year.
last year's
Last year.
schedule.
Because we have
On
an
the bus
8:20
route.
start.
Oh,
So
okay,
that kind
thank
of
you.
shifted things. So it is easier. That's not to say that every single student
Got
can
it.
necessarily get here by that time. And there may be students who don't take the bus, parents drive, or whatever the case may be.
Okay. Yeah,
But
I've
it's a
had
little
few
bit better
Woodridge
now.
people specifically ask me and thinking like, we'll get there because it's important to make that class, but why isn't there a bus? And that's helpful to know. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, the requests have been more buses after school hours, and last year we added those, an activity bus, 1 or 2 at each school? One at each school? Yeah, for after-school transportation home.
So what time does the latest bus leave the school, or will the latest bus leave the school this fall?
6:15?
Which is usually typically when most, if not all, of the practices have concluded by that time.
Great.
We do have the ability to move the time around if needed, so sometimes, I think in the winter, the bus can come a little bit earlier than it comes in the spring season. So we're able to customize it based on when the student athletes need to go home.
All right, anything else in this section? Anything else overall popped up as we were going through it? Last call for any other topics? Or something that wasn't mentioned on here that you have questions about? Kind of the last call before I ask you to take action on it.
I think this is a really great way of putting things down for us to be able to, and I really like the fact that you put the staff member his name
Thank you.
on there, so.
Yeah, a little different take on it this time.
Yeah, so very good. I really appreciate that.
I'll take the kudos, every time
Okay.
I can get it right.
Okay. Or pass it on.
I mean, sometimes I may be thinking, I don't know who actually is the owner or something, so this is good.
Yeah, and you'll get it throughout the year in our update document, in that document, but that's really more of a, like an internal, where we're kind of just scripting what we're working on. I think this makes it better for both you and the public to know, at least as we start the year, who's responsible for what.
I think this document shows that there has been a lot of hard work put in over the course of the summer by the entire team, which is very much appreciated. Really looking forward to this school year.
Thank you. We've been working hard.
Yeah. It's almost on us.
Okay, item number 5, the consent agenda. Before we vote on the consent agenda, is there any item on the consent agenda that any board member would like to pull out for further discussion or consideration?
No.
Hearing none, I need a motion from the Board of Education to approve the consent agenda as presented, which includes A, personnel report, appointment certified, contract adjustment certified, appointment classified, transfer position classified, B, personnel report, resignation certified, retirement classified, resignation classified, and C, District 99 strategic roadmap for the 2023-2024 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Terry moved, Chris second.
Terry Pavasich.
Aye.
Christopher Espinosa.
Aye.
Cheryl Fuller.
Aye.
Jenny Hagstrom.
Aye.
Kara Caston.
Aye.
Ken Dawson.
Aye.
And Don Renner.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 6, Julie, do you have any visitors? Okay. And then item number 7. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
So who seconded this?
Chris.
Thank you.
Chris.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
This is different.
Got you a quick one.